Dr. John E. Dick.
Well, normally I talk extemporaneously, but as some people who have been in my lab know that sometimes I just get going, and so I'll actually read it in terms of what I've written. Look, it's a remarkable honor, to be recognized by induction into the Medical Hall of Fame and to have one's name added to the list of the Canadians who have made such important contributions over the many years that this organization has come about. When Ron Wharton called me and said that I had been inducted and explained a little bit about the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame, and some of you who don't know this story, but it started from a dream that Cal Stiller had, but it was started by his grandson who said, Grandpa, why do we have a Hockey Hall of Fame and a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Why isn't there why isn't there a Hall of Fame for, research in medicine? And so, Cal and his inevitable oomph got it going. So, as a son of immigrants who fled the war and war-torn and revolution-torn Eastern Europe, I think neither my parents or I would have predicted that their nerdy last child would be standing on this stage so many years later. I know they would have been proud, not only of me being here, but also proud of their adopted country and what Canada provided to enable the unlikely feat to have this occur. The commitment of all those teachers from that one-room school that I started for the first 6 years of my life to the tiny high school that I went to that never had a biology program. But they were committed to wanting the best for their students, and I was the beneficiary of that. This was a Canada where a student from modest means could get educated, a country that has a long history of boxing well above its weight class, and a cadre of scientists who are committed to playing in the big leagues. And, along that line, science is not done in isolation, and I had the good fortune to be surrounded by scientists committed to excellence. In the early part of my career, I was mentored by Bob Phillips and Alan Bernstein. Alan is a member of the Medical Hall of Fame, who guided me to want to become a scientist who shines light into darkness rather than replicating the work of others. And for my entire life, I've been surrounded by remarkable colleagues in the Department of Molecular Genetics at U of T. And initially, my labs were at the Hospital for Sick Children, and for the last 20 years or so at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And those colleagues, some of them who are sitting around the table right there, have really set the highest standards for scientific investigation that continuously challenge me to resist sloppy thinking, to resist taking the easy way out of a problem, but rather to tackle biological challenges with rigor and clear thinking. But I really want to acknowledge, the important role that all the 150-odd trainees who have been through my lab over the past 35 years have played in the pathway leading me to this podium. Those of you who know me know that awards and recognition make me feel pretty awkward because they focus on me, and I know my faults, but they put me on this pedestal. And it's not just for the experimental work that those 150 trainees performed, but really for what they contributed to the ideas. They weren't my ideas. They weren't actually their ideas. They were the ideas that came out that we did together. I see our lab as a crucible where ideas are poured in. Experiment comes through, or you have a thought or a hypothesis or just a thought in the middle of the night. And the ideas are poured into this crucible. Good ones, bad ones, ugly ones. Mine are often the ugly ones. And so no single person has a perfect insight, but it's out of this crucible of ideas rises the phoenix that becomes the ultimate advance. And all have contributed to that emergence. And it's this generation of trainees who have built that deep understanding of what makes a stem cell, and uncovered how it goes bad in leukemia. And I accept this induction on all their behalf, and I'm honored that a group of them have been able to be here tonight. And I want to highlight actually two people who are at the table there. One is Jean Wang, who was a green hematologist when she came, but ended up being bitten by the research bud, did a postdoc, PhD with me, then a postdoc, then became my colleague for the last 30 years, and played a major role in many of the findings. In fact, the findings that have made their way into the clinical testing at this point. And lastly, Monica Dodens, who's my long-suffering lab manager. She became the first employee of my lab in July, I think, of 1986, 1 month before I began. So she's been in my lab longer than I have. And she's had my back for all those years and herded all those 150 staff and trainees to mostly move in the same direction. And lastly, but not certainly, I want to recognize my family, Jonathan and his partner Becky, Christy and her partner Delmar, and the 4 wonderful grandchildren they've given us, Cameron, Grayson, Karis, and Beckett. And they are the love of my life, and they are the ones who will keep me away from the lab because I love being around them. But of course, the person I really want to recognize is Lorna, who's standing at the table, or who's sitting at the table there. I wouldn't be standing here without her and my family. They are my strength, and they keep me grounded. They definitely keep me grounded. They've given so much to be able to allow me to pursue my passion. They've stood beside me in the good times and kept me standing in the bad times. Thank you.